Hey there, pedagogy students. Week 15, video number 2. So today we're going to go over some strumming techniques, starting on page 30 in the Barcelona book. I'll have that page on the link for you right underneath this link. And also a little bit further in the book on page 38, we're going to explore how to actually do what they refer to as a chuck. It's kind of a misnomer, but it's kind of when you have a chord and you stop it. There's lots of ways to stop chords. So we'll talk about some of the ways that you can make that happen and also get some variety in your strumming techniques. So first things first though, if we look at page 30, we did go over this in class, I believe in week 7, which was a couple of weeks before we got upended by this whole corona thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the strum pattern, starting with strum 1. It's actually kind of cool the way he has it ordered. I really find strum 1 through about strum 7 somewhat useful. We'll just take a look and see what we can do with this. But these are great ways to practice chords that you already know into some kind of pattern that works. So first thing is on the very first strum is just doing a simple down and up strum. So as we talked about in class, the down strum, you're trying to get, if you had, for instance, a D chord, you're trying to get the sound of the chord starting on that D or your 4th string on the way down. And on the upstroke, you just need the top 2 notes. So even just a down up strum should sound somewhat refined in the sense that, listen to what would happen if I didn't target the bass notes on the way down and the treble notes on the way up. What if I just played it evenly across the board? It'll sound kind of like this. Real plain, no sense of real direction, and a lot of that comes from, if you listen to a piano, the way a piano always goes boom, cha, ba, So this idea of like a boom chuck kind of thing happens in music a lot on the 8th notes. So if these are 8th notes I'm playing, down, up, down, up. In a way I'm trying to make the upstroke on the top part of the chord and the downstroke on the bottom part. And if you put that on a slow kind of a tempo there, this is, I don't know how slow this is, it's maybe 55 or something. And if I just did down, up, without the chord, great way to practice. So what I'm doing there is I'm muting intentionally the sound of the strings with my left hand, and you can mute them anywhere you want. Now if you mute them on the 12th fret, you might actually get an accidental harmonic sound like this. So you don't want to do it on the 12th fret because it sounds too cool, or on the 7th fret, or 5th. So those are where your primary harmonics are on the guitar, the 12th, or the halfway point between the strings, the 7th fret, or the 3rd way point of the strings. If you find the other 3rd, you will also get it there. The 19th fret, same harmonic. And then the 5th fret is a quarter of the distance between the frets. So harmonics are pretty interesting, but you don't want that for this. You just want to kind of... So on the way down, I'm kind of hitting it like a whip with my pick held quite firmly. I'm moving through the strings rapidly, so you can't even hear this. If you do this, it means you're going too slowly. And a lot of guitarists play like this at first. You have, say, a G chord, and you go like this. It's nice to go through chords slowly, but when you're playing kind of in a group situation, usually it's quicker. The downstroke needs to be quite assertive and quick. The idea is to get through the chord quickly, because that's what you're targeting your beat with, is the arrival of that part of the chord you want to emphasize. Now, curiously enough, in this group of exercises, the strum 2 is just the down strum like this. Strum 2. excellent way to start because, of course, you're just focusing on the downstroke. But you want it to time that strum exactly with the arrival of the metronome sound. So it's a really good thing to practice. The second strum, that's the strum 2. The strum 1 is then adding the up pattern like this. So if I start on strum 2 and I just have the downs, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to go down, up. So if you just have one chord, it makes it easier, of course, than switching, but you want to also practice that with switching chords. So strum 2 is a downstroke only, 1 is down, up. So what the heck is strum 3? It's down, down, up, down, down, up. Or this. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Now this is a very popular fast strumming pattern. If I speed it up. Down, down, up, down, down, up. If you went faster than that, a lot of songs do that, of course, quicker. So, with some very simple picking patterns, we've just done 3 of them here, you can get quite a bit of variety of sound. And if it's in a minor key, a C chord. It sounds great. So in that strum 3, it's also kind of a Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison kind of sound. So a lot of what you call rockabilly songs have that number 3 pattern. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a really good way to practice these, okay? Number 4, down, down, up, down, up, down, up. Much like number 3, only instead of having down, down, up, down, down, up, down, it leaves out the gap that's in on the 3rd beat, and it puts it in. So it sounds like this. I'm using are D, and instead of using a regular C chord, I'm using a C add 9 chord, which has a D on the D note there with the pinky, and then to a G. But the G chord has a little fancy thing in it. I'm using a D there also. So there's lots of different ways you can voice chords to make them sound a little bit cooler, okay? I'll get into that in a little bit. So that's strum 1 through 4. So number 5 has the syncopation in it. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Very popular chord with a strum with a G chord. Strum 5 is down, down, up, down, down. We did practice this one in class quite a bit, so if you need to go over it again, just remember, set that metronome on slow, take a look at it, number 5, and go through the motion without the chord. 3, 4, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, up. So we did that one in class quite a bit because it's an important one. fourth strum patterns have certain kinds of songs that you can hear in the song if you pay attention to the different songs. I can't off the top of my head remember which one this goes with, but it's almost like if you're in a church group or something and they want you to do something, you go, oh, it's that pattern. It's not like you have to practice these to the point of doing anything other than listening to what you're doing. The idea of which strum you will use sometimes will be included in the song sheets and sometimes won't. You'll have to figure it out depending on your skill level, and of course when you're changing the chords, if you can change the chords quick enough to be in time with the downbeat of the chord change you want. So what I advise is to just get used to these patterns separately than adding a bunch of chords. Just try them like that so you can really do it in your sleep. It takes a long time, so be patient with yourself. So basically, then there's a bunch of weird ones that aren't used that much, like a Charleston, when it is down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. I've never used it before. It says Charleston, great. One of the ones I really like, actually, after this is, I think the Indigo Girls one is strum number 10. Let's see. I can't quite get it right now. Anyway, there's variations with all of these, and like we were talking about in class, just going up and down, or I should say down and up, is a lot of it, emphasizing the bass note on the down one and the trebles on the top, and you'll get yourself in good stead with that. Now, I want to talk about this thing on page 38 that's called the chuck. So the way they describe it in the book is if you have a D chord and you just strum down and up, and you decide to mute the chord, you simply lift the fingers up and you get this indeterminate pitch. So if you look at the rhythm, it's down, up, down, up. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. The idea is to create like a hi-hat sound. Okay, now I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use a D chord with a bar, and I'll show you why. So my feeling is what they're trying to show you in the back book is actually, it's kind of a misnomer. You don't often have professional guitarists playing a D chord like this and actually getting a good chuck out of this sound, because there's plenty of open strings that can go wrong when you try to mute it that actually sound anyway. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you can tell, but on that second beat you can actually still hear the note ringing. Still ringing. So to get a really proper chuck, so to speak, the reason I used the bar chord was I just can pull the bar chord up, and I get this very indeterminate, scratchy, high-pitched sound. So when I'm doing chucks, or when I want to have a chuck sound, I will use bar chords a lot more. And those the pattern is just down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But the chuck part is a down, up, chuck, down, up, chuck, corresponding to the second and fourth beats of every 4/4 song. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So if I take that D, A, and G chord, they look totally different, don't they? Than this D, G, and I'm supposed to say D, A, and G chord there. It doesn't really matter which one you try it with. Obviously, it's easier to use this D chord for most people, but I'm saying that the actual chuck sound tell that at best, it's still not that great. I'm going to go to a C9. It's even worse on a C9 chord. What are you going to do? Pick up these three, and it's still going to ring? So, there's another thing you can do. If you have a finger free, you can just drape that finger across the string and make the sound. So I'm actually muting the chuck part with my pinky. Of course, if you're using your pinky, then what are you going to do there? Sour grapes. It doesn't work for that chord or this one. Maybe. So it's an incomplete, inconsistent technique. That's why professional guitarists use bar chords a lot, is they can stop the sound with the left hand just by raising the chord off right up on top of where the chord is. Sounds great on an electric guitar, by the way. It's a good way to actually practice is to shadow box your chord, so to speak. Like shadow boxing. Not really hearing the sound, but if I put it in there. Let me slow it down for you. It just takes a lot of practice because the bar chord has to be good. The chucking has to be right, and it's a feel that you develop. So just try to find what you can do. I think this is a good idea he has in the book, to take the D chord and you can do it on certain chords and not on others. The A chord is not as good because the E's going to ring. See? So in that case, you can use your pinky like this. I'm doing is I'm kind of at the moment of impact with the right hand downstroke. I'm timing it with that pinky and I'm laying it across the string strategically flat. Sounds like a hi-hat. It's actually kind of fun and easy to do in certain chords. In other chords that have all of your fingers down, what would you do on a B7 chord? You have this B that's going to ring, see? Now, in that case, you could also do what they call a palm mute. Later on in this chapter, they discuss palm muting. So palm muting is when you take your palm, this part of your palm, and you make it flat against the bridge. The saddle, I should say. The saddle is what the bridge raises the bridge. So the saddle actually sits on top of the bridge, just that curved thing here. And if you put your hand like a karate chop, don't karate chop your guitar too much, but right there, and you actually drape it across all 6 strings, and then you go to the left a little, you'll get this sound if you pick it. The cool thing about it is you can actually hear the chords. Now, for obvious reasons, it's very hard to hear it. At best, it's used as an effect, okay, palm muting. But you can still use it in certain ways to, like if I had a B7 chord and I couldn't drape my pinky across it because the pinky's down, and I couldn't stop all the strings because the B string rings through, what do I do there? You have a little ace in the hole with this palm mute. Watch this. So what I do is I throw the downstroke down with my pick. It's not as hard as it looks. I'm throwing it down. I'm going to hit the strings, and at the same time that I arrive on the strings at the down part, I squash the sound with that palm part. Takes a lot of practice. So sometimes you can stop the chord with the right hand. It's an E chord. That's going to ring like crazy if I don't do it. If I just lift the fingers like he's telling you at the chuck, it's not going to work. So there's lots of ways that you can stop the strings, and they're really interesting, and it creates kind of a drumming effect to your playing. Definitely more advanced technique, okay? There's a good portion of you that won't be able to do this for a while, but if you keep working on your guitar skills and you develop a little of it, it will make you sound a lot more professional in front of your class. So the thing to do is to kind of come up with something that you can actually do. Let's say you had power chords. It's easy to stop the chords with a power chord because you just lift those three notes. That was better. See, it sounds like a hi-hat. So maybe the solution for some of you is to try the power chord on the G position. It's the easier one. It's easier than the F position. A couple down upstroke, and then just try out. And a little trick is if you go by the bridge more, it's a more sharp sound than here. Kind of like do-wacka sound. So those are some more advanced techniques, okay? So to review, you can mute sounds on chords depending on the chord and the application in this order. The easiest one is if you actually found a chord like a D chord, and if you pick it up, you'll get that kind of slightly muted sound. Another way you can mute the sound is if you have a spare finger like a pinky. Makes a little percussive sound when you land on it too. See? So it adds to the percussion sound of this by the landing of the finger. I'm doing them all. I'm doing my right hand that. So then you can finally do a palm mute as well. They're all different. They all take different applications, different practicing. In the book, I think they're fudging a lot of this technique to just kind of introduce something to you to see if it sticks. All right, if you throw a lot of things on a wall, something's going to stick. And that's really the name of the game with a lot of guitar playing. So anyway, I hope that helps a little bit to vary some of your strumming techniques. At the very least, we looked at that original page 30 and went over some of those simple down, up strumming techniques. And you can try those with your favorite chords. Wanted to show you a strum that I really like, just a parting thing would be the D chord. And then I love the C9 chord. So if you have a D chord, the C9 chord is like a C chord, and you're adding the ninth note or the D by being lazy. You just leave the D down. Isn't that a great chord? You have an E on top. And now a G chord, but I'm leaving the third finger on that D chord. This is a great Indigo Girls kind of a line. So you can do that, C chord, G, C. So it's not just D, C, G, it's D, C9, different kind of G than this G. So every little chord has its own personality, but I just wanted to show that to you. I thought it was cool. Okay, so practice that. I'll see you again next week.